Sarah Chin stood at the observation deck of the Lunar Research Station, watching Earth glow like a blue marble in the vast darkness of space. As the station's leading xenobiologist, she had spent the last 5 years studying potential signs of extraterrestrial life. The irony wasn't lost on her that when first contact finally happened, she wouldn't be the one to discover it. Nobody would. They came without warning during the Mars colony's founding celebration. The settlers had gathered in the main dome, raising glasses to humanity's first permanent settlement beyond Earth. That's when the dome's protective shields failed, and the atmosphere began to leak. Security footage later showed shadowy figures moving through the panic, selecting targets with methodical precision. Dr. Chin. Her assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. The Security Council is waiting. Sarah straightened her uniform and took one last look at Earth. In the 3 months since the Mars incident, she had reviewed the footage countless times, analyzing every frame, every movement. What she had discovered would change humanity's understanding of their place in the universe forever. The Security Council chamber was already full when she arrived. Representatives from every major spacefaring nation sat around the circular table, their faces illuminated by holographic displays showing the latest attack data. Dr. Chin, Admiral Santos began, his weathered face grave. Your report suggests you've identified patterns in these attacks. Please proceed. Sarah activated her presentation, and a 3-dimensional map of human settlements appeared above the table. Red dots marked the locations of attacks, forming an unmistakable pattern. They're not invading, she said, her voice steady despite the weight of her words. They're hunting. The room erupted in murmurs. Sarah continued, switching to footage from the latest attack on Europa Station. Notice how they deliberately disable our defensive systems, but leave escape routes open. They're not interested in total elimination. They're creating what I call pressure zones, areas of controlled chaos where they can observe and select specific targets. The footage showed crystalline figures moving through the station's corridors, their forms shifting between visibility and near-perfect camouflage. We're dealing with a species I've designated as the next car. Based on recovered biological samples, they possess a highly advanced form of chromatophore-based camouflage, similar to Earth's cephalopods, but far more sophisticated. You're saying they're sport hunting us? The Chinese representative's voice carried a mix of disbelief and disgust. Exactly. Sarah switched to a new display showing recovered artifacts from attack sites. They're collecting trophies, specific body parts, personal items, recordings of their hunts. But here's what's fascinating. They're learning from us. She highlighted several images showing modified human technology. They're not just hunting us, they're studying how we fight back. Each attack shows an evolution in their tactics based on previous human responses. They're treating this like a game, but one where they're genuinely interested in how their prey adapts. Admiral Santos leaned forward. How do we fight an enemy that treats us like animals? Sarah's expression hardened. By understanding that they've made a fundamental mistake. They think they're the apex predators, but they've forgotten something crucial about human beings. She paused, switching to historical images of early human hunters. We didn't become Earth's dominant species by being the strongest or fastest. We did it by being the most adaptable predators this planet has ever seen. The room fell silent as she continued. The next car hunt for sport, but humans? We learned to hunt for survival. Everything they're doing, the tactics, the technology, the trophy collection, we've done it all before. The only difference is we evolved beyond it. New data appeared on the displays, showing atmospheric analysis from attack sites. Their technology has a weakness. Their camouflage system requires a specific atmospheric composition to function optimally. On Mars, they had to adjust to the terraformed atmosphere. During that adjustment period, there was a brief window where they were visible. How brief? Someone asked. 17 seconds. But 17 seconds is all we need. Sarah brought up designs for a new type of atmospheric modulation system. We can create localized atmospheric disruptions that will force their camouflage to recalibrate. It won't stop them, but it will give us a fighting chance. That's not enough, Admiral Santos said. We need more than a fighting chance. Sarah smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Which is why I have a proposal. The Nixcar see us as prey because they've only encountered us in controlled environments, our colonies, our stations, our ships. But we have something they haven't seen yet, Earth. She expanded the holographic display to show Earth's various biomes. We've spent thousands of years adapting to every environment on our planet. We've learned to survive in the harshest deserts, the deepest jungles, the coldest tundras. Let them try hunting us there. You want to lure them to Earth? The Russian representative sounded alarmed. I want to show them what happens when you hunt a species that spent its entire evolutionary history learning how to hunt smarter, not stronger. Sarah's voice carried absolute conviction. The Nixcar think they're studying us? Let's show them what real scientific observation looks like. Every encounter, every attack, gives us more data about their biology, their technology, their social structure. She brought up one final display, showing a complex network of interconnected data points. They're not the first predators to think humans were easy prey. But I promise you this, like every other species that made that mistake, they're going to learn that humans aren't just another target species. We're the result of millions of years of evolution that turned a group of weak, hairless primates into the most successful hunters Earth has ever produced. Admiral Santos studied the data for a long moment before speaking. What do you need? Give me 6 months and a team of our best xenobiologists, military strategists, and hunters. Not soldiers, hunters. People who understand the difference between fighting and hunting. Sarah's eyes gleamed with determination. The Nixcar want to play games? Fine. Let's teach them the oldest game humanity knows, the one where we turn from prey to predator. As the council began their deliberations, Sarah returned to the observation deck. Looking at Earth now, she saw it differently, not just as humanity's home, but as the perfect hunting ground. The Nixcar had no idea what they'd awakened. They thought they were dealing with simple prey animals, but they were about to learn a harsh lesson about evolution. Somewhere out there, the hunters were watching, planning their next game. But this time, humanity would be ready. This time, they would learn why Earth's history was written not by the strongest predators, but by the species that learned to turn every disadvantage into a weapon, every defeat into a lesson, and every hunt into an opportunity to evolve. The game was about to change, and Sarah Chin intended to rewrite the rules. The Amazon rainforest had always been dense, but now it concealed something beyond its natural wonders. Deep beneath the canopy, Sarah Chin crouched in a carefully constructed blind, her eyes fixed on the holographic display before her. 6 months had passed since the Security Council meeting, and humanity had gone underground. Literally. Base Camp Sigma, online, a voice whispered through her neural implant. Around the world, similar camps had been established in Earth's most challenging environments. The Sahara Desert, Siberian tundra, Mariana Trench, anywhere humans had learned to survive over millennia became a potential battleground. Status report, Sarah subvocalized, her throat muscles triggering the neural link without making a sound. The technology was crude compared to the Nixcar's capabilities, but it had one crucial advantage. It was completely human, designed from the ground up to be incompatible with alien systems. Multiple signatures detected in orbit, the response came. They're following the pattern. Looks like your theory was right, document. Sarah allowed herself a grim smile. The Nixcar were nothing if not predictable in their arrogance. They detected the apparent evacuation of several major cities and assumed humanity was retreating in fear. In reality, every abandoned city was a trap, every empty building a potential ambush point. Her display showed live feeds from around the globe. In the Sahara, specialist teams had developed survival suits that not only protected against the harsh environment, but also mimicked the heat signature of rocks. The Nixcar's thermal imaging would be useless against targets that appeared identical to their surroundings. Beneath the Pacific, deep-sea habitats housed researchers studying the alien biology samples they'd collected. The breakthrough had come 3 weeks ago when Dr. Patel discovered something extraordinary about the Nixcar's chromatophore system. They're entering atmosphere, the voice in her head announced. Multiple dropships, targeting the evacuated zones as expected. Sarah switched her display to the orbital view. The alien vessels were beautiful in a predatory way, their crystalline structures refracting sunlight like faceted diamonds. But now she knew their secret. The same atmospheric requirements that made their camouflage possible also made their ships vulnerable to specific frequency disruptions. Initiative Prometheus is in position, another voice reported. Named after the mythological figure who gave humans fire, the initiative represented humanity's greatest technological leap since the Mars colonies. Sarah had helped design it, combining xenobiology with terrestrial defense systems. Remember, she broadcast to all stations, "We're not trying to win today. This is about data collection." Every encounter, every skirmish, feeds into the learning algorithm. We need to understand how they hunt before we can turn it against them. The first Nyx-Car hunting party landed in what used to be downtown Singapore. Their crystalline forms shifted through spectrums of light as they adjusted to Earth's atmosphere. They moved with the confidence of apex predators, unaware that every step was being analyzed by sensors hidden throughout the city. Atmospheric composition recorded, Dr. Patel's voice came through. Running comparison with previous samples. "Sarah, you need to see this data." The numbers appeared on Sarah's display, confirming what they'd theorized. The Nyx-Car weren't just adapting their camouflage to Earth's atmosphere, they were actively modifying the air around them to optimize their hunting capabilities. "Track those atmospheric changes," she ordered. "I want to know exactly how their environmental manipulation works." In the abandoned city, the hunters had split into smaller groups, following their standard protocol. But this time, they encountered something new. The buildings themselves seemed to resist scanning, their surfaces treated with a compound developed from studying the Nyx-Car's own biological samples. The first trap was sprung in an old shopping mall. As a hunting party passed through, the building's atmospheric processors activated, subtly altering the air composition. The effect was immediate. Their camouflage flickered, leaving them visible for crucial seconds. "Contact in Sector 7, a tactical officer reported. Resistance team engaging under controlled conditions." Sarah switched feeds to watch the encounter. The resistance fighters moved with practiced precision, using techniques adapted from thousands of years of human hunting experience. They didn't try to overpower the Nyx-Car. Instead, they demonstrated what humans did best, adapting and improvising. "Multiple data points confirmed," Dr. Patel announced. "Their atmospheric manipulation has a specific range. Beyond 7 meters, the effect diminishes exponentially." This was the kind of information they needed. Every limitation, every weakness, added to their understanding. The Nyx-Car had made a crucial mistake. They'd assumed that human technology would try to match their own. Instead, humanity had gone in the opposite direction, developing systems that were deliberately incompatible with alien tech. "They're retreating from Sector 7, the tactical officer reported. 3 hunters wounded, no human casualties." Sarah studied the footage. The Nyx-Car's retreat wasn't driven by fear. They were analyzing the encounter, learning just as humanity was learning. But they were missing the bigger picture. While they studied individual human tactics, they failed to recognize the broader strategy. "All stations, implement Phase 2, she ordered. Across the globe, hidden systems activated. The abandoned cities began to change, their environment subtly shifting to create zones where the Nyx-Car's advantages were neutralized. It wasn't about winning individual battles, it was about changing the rules of the game itself. "Incoming transmission," her neural link buzzed. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies." The message was clear, a formal challenge. The Nyx-Car had recognized humanity's resistance as worthy of their attention. They were elevating the hunt from a simple sport to what they called a great game. Sarah's response was equally clear, acceptance, but with a condition. The hunt would take place on Earth, in environments of humanity's choosing. To her surprise, they agreed readily, their confidence unshaken by the day's encounters. "They still think they're the hunters," Dr. Patel observed. "Good," Sarah replied, watching as the alien ships retreated to orbit. "Let them keep thinking that. While they're playing their game, we'll be playing ours." In the months that followed, humanity refined its strategies. The resistance camps became training grounds where people learned to combine ancient hunting techniques with modern technology. They studied the Nixcar just as intensely as their ancestors had studied the movements of prehistoric prey. But Sarah knew they needed more than just defensive capabilities. As she reviewed the data from each encounter, a plan began to form. The Nixcar's greatest weakness wasn't in their technology or their biology, it was in their psychology. They were so convinced of their superiority that they couldn't conceive of their prey becoming predators. "Begin Phase 3 preparations," she ordered. "It's time to show them what happens when humans stop hiding and start hunting." As night fell over the Amazon, Sarah emerged from her blind. Above, the stars were visible through gaps in the canopy, and somewhere among them, the Nixcar waited, confident in their role as the galaxy's ultimate hunters. They had no idea that every encounter, every hunt, was bringing humanity closer to turning their own game against them. The real hunt was about to begin, and this time, humans wouldn't be the prey. The crystalline spires of the Nixcar orbital station, Glory's Hunt, stretched before Sarah like frozen lightning bolts against the void of space. Her heart pounded beneath her artificially grown Nixcar skin, a biological masterpiece that had taken 6 months to perfect. The experimental camouflage technology wasn't just a disguise, it was a complete biological transformation, down to the cellular level. Identity verification required, the station's AI announced in the clicking, musical language of the Nixcar. Sarah's altered vocal cords produced the perfect response, her fake credentials identifying her as Valsha Kir, a rare game specialist from the outer colonies. "Welcome, Hunter Valsha," the AI chimed. "Your reputation precedes you. The Grand Hunt Assembly awaits your expertise." As Sarah glided through the station's iridescent corridors, she marveled at how the Nixcar's hunting obsession influenced every aspect of their architecture. Each wall panel displayed real-time recordings of ongoing hunts across the galaxy. Species she'd never seen before fled from crystalline hunters, their deaths preserved as entertainment. "Magnificent, isn't it?" A voice like chiming glass interrupted her observations. Sarah turned to face a towering Nixcar noble, his scales shifting through patterns of deep purple and gold, a sign of high status. "I am Grand Hunter Xiwaxtel. Your work with the crystalline behemoths of Tau Ceti was impressive." Sarah bowed, her transformed body moving with practiced grace. "You honor me, Grand Hunter. Though I must admit, my current interest lies in a more challenging prey." ZYXL's scales rippled with amusement. "You speak of the humans." "Yes, they have proven surprisingly entertaining. Come, walk with me." As they moved through the station, Sarah's implanted sensors recorded everything: atmospheric compositions, security protocols, biological data from passing Nixcar. Each piece of information was encrypted and transmitted via quantum burst to a hidden receiver in her artificial scales, designed to mimic the natural crystalline formations of Nixcar ornamental jewelry. "We've lost 3 hunting parties in their Earth environment," ZYXL continued, leading her to a vast observation chamber. "Most unusual. Most stimulating." The chamber's walls displayed a real-time strategic map of Earth, marked with hunting zones and threat assessments. Sarah noticed with hidden satisfaction that several areas were marked in deep red, extreme danger. "Their adaptation rate is remarkable," Sarah commented, carefully measuring her words. "Almost as if they're learning from each encounter." ZYXL's scales shifted to a thoughtful blue. "Indeed. Some suggest we should simply exterminate them, but that would be wasteful. A species that can challenge us so directly deserves proper study. Which is why we've called for specialists like yourself." A holographic display activated in the center of the chamber, showing detailed analyses of human combat tactics. Sarah recognized several encounters she'd personally coordinated, now being studied by the galaxy's most prestigious hunters. "Their technology is primitive." Another Nixcar hunter joined the conversation, his scales bearing the marks of recent combat. "But their methods, they don't fight like prey animals. They fight like hunters," Sarah finished, allowing a note of excitement to enter her voice. "They study their opponents, adapt their strategies, set elaborate traps." "Fascinating, isn't it? You seem quite knowledgeable about them, Valsha, Zuextel observed, his cybernetic eye focusing on her with increased intensity. I make it my business to understand unusual prey, Sarah replied smoothly. The humans represent something unique, a species that evolved as both predator and prey. Their planet's history forced them to be both hunter and hunted. It makes them unpredictable. The chamber filled with more Nixcar hunters, all gathered for what Sarah realized was a crucial strategic meeting. Her presence here was an unprecedented opportunity, one that could either doom her mission or provide the key to humanity's survival. We've analyzed their response patterns, a military strategist announced, bringing up new tactical displays. They appear to be operating from hidden bases, using their planet's varied environments as cover. Standard hunting protocols have proven ineffective. Then we change the protocols, Sarah suggested, her artificial heart racing as she implemented the next phase of her plan. If they want to turn their planet into a hunting ground, let's accept their challenge. But on a scale they can't imagine. The assembled hunters turned to her with interest as she approached the tactical display. Using her gathered intelligence about Nixcar hunting culture, she knew exactly how to phrase her suggestion. Imagine, she continued, manipulating the holographic controls, a great hunt unlike any in our history. Not just isolated hunting parties, but a coordinated campaign across their entire planet. Every environment, every terrain type, hunted simultaneously. We turn their whole world into one massive proving ground. The chamber filled with excited murmurs. Sarah could see the idea taking hold in their crystalline minds, appealing to their love of spectacle and challenge. The logistics would be unprecedented, Zuextel mused, his scales shifting through patterns of interest. But the prestige, to organize such a hunt. I volunteer to coordinate the preliminary survey, Sarah offered, her transformed body displaying the appropriate signs of eager anticipation. My expertise with challenging environments makes me ideally suited to identify the optimal hunting zones. This was the critical moment. If they accepted, she would gain access to their entire tactical database. If they refused, months of infiltration would be wasted. Zuextel studied her for a long moment, his cybernetic eye whirring as it analyzed her form. Finally, his scales shifted to the deep gold of decision. Granted. You will lead the survey team. Make your preparations. As the chamber emptied, Sarah maintained her composed exterior while her human mind raced with possibilities. She had done it, gained a position that would give her unprecedented access to Nixcar hunting strategies and technology. But more importantly, she had planted the seed of their downfall. The great hunt they were so eagerly planning would be their undoing, but not in the way they imagined. Every survey team she led would help position humanity's hidden defenses. Every hunting zone she identified would become a trap. Valsha, Zuextel called as she turned to leave. There's something familiar about your hunting philosophy. Most intriguing. Sarah bowed again, hiding her tension. Perhaps great hunters think alike, regardless of species. As she left the chamber, Sarah's modified body moved with perfect Nixcar grace, while her human mind processed the day's achievements. The hunters were about to learn a harsh lesson about the danger of underestimating their prey. The real hunt was about to begin. The African savanna stretched endlessly under the scorching sun, its golden grasses swaying in the hot wind. To the untrained eye, it looked empty, pristine, untouched. But Sarah Chin, now back in her human form after 3 months of deep cover, knew better. The savannah was about to become their first major battleground. Confirmation received, Dr. Patel's voice crackled through her neural link. The Nixcar survey teams are proceeding exactly as you predicted. They're focusing on the most challenging environments first. Sarah watched through advanced binoculars as the crystalline forms of Nixcar scouts shimmered in the distance. Her time among them had revealed their fatal flaw. They were so focused on proving their superiority that they failed to recognize the trap they were walking into. All units, maintain position, she sub-vocalized. Remember your training. Today we're not just fighting back, we're changing the rules of engagement. Across the savannah, hundreds of resistance fighters lay in wait, their bodies coated in a paste derived from Nick's car biology. The compound, developed by Dr. Patel's team, masked their heat signatures and neural activity. To the aliens' advanced sensors, they were invisible, just another part of the landscape. "They're approaching the first marker," reported Captain Maya Rodriguez, leader of the ground forces. Assessment teams in position. The Nick's car moved with characteristic confidence, their crystalline forms adapting to the harsh African sun. They were recording everything, analyzing the environment for the upcoming Great Hunt. What they didn't realize was that every scan they performed was being mirrored. Every piece of data they collected was being transmitted back to hidden human facilities. "Now," Sarah commanded. The savannah came alive. Not with weapons or explosions, but with something far more insidious. Hidden emitters activated, releasing a carefully engineered mixture of atmospheric gases. To the Nick's car, it would appear as nothing more than natural atmospheric variations, the kind their environmental suits were designed to handle. "Biological response confirmed," Dr. Patel reported excitedly. "Their chromatophores are reacting exactly as theorized." Sarah watched through specialized filters as the Nick's car's natural camouflage began to work against them. The atmospheric cocktail wasn't designed to harm them. Instead, it forced their chromatophores to respond to false environmental cues. Their attempted adaptations were making them more visible, not less. "Second phase," she ordered. The ground beneath the aliens' feet shifted subtly. Months of preparation had gone into modifying the terrain, installing microscopic sensors and response systems. Each step the Nick's car took triggered minute vibrations, building a perfect three-dimensional map of their movements. "They're attempting to compensate," Maya reported, switching to their backup camouflage systems. "Perfect," Sarah smiled. This was exactly what they had planned for. The Nick's car's backup systems relied on a different principle, one that they had discovered during Sarah's infiltration. It was more primitive, more power-intensive, and completely predictable. "Release the drones." Thousands of tiny objects, no bigger than insects, rose from the grass. They were based on Earth's own mosquitoes, designed to be dismissed as local wildlife. But each one carried a payload of specialized nanobots programmed to interact with the Nick's car's backup camouflage systems. First contact in 3, 2, 1. The effect was subtle but devastating. As the nanobots interfaced with the alien technology, they began to rewrite its basic protocols. Not enough to be immediately noticeable, but enough to plant the seeds of future failure. "Primary objective achieved," Dr. Patel confirmed. "The viral code is successfully embedded in their systems. Every time they activate their backup camouflage, it will transmit the location data to our networks." But Sarah knew the Nick's car wouldn't retreat just because of a few technical glitches. They were too proud, too convinced of their superiority. Which was exactly what she was counting on. "Initiate contact protocol," she ordered. Maya's team moved first, emerging from their hiding spots in a way that seemed random but was carefully choreographed. They appeared to be simple rangers, park wardens protecting their territory. The Nick's car's response was predictable. They activated their weapons, preparing to add new trophies to their collection. That's when the real trap was sprung. The savannah itself turned against them. Every blade of grass had been treated with a compound that reacted to their energy weapons, creating a blinding feedback loop. The ground, saturated with specially engineered microorganisms, became unstable under their feet. "They're calling for backup," Maya reported with satisfaction. Exactly as predicted. Sarah checked her tactical display. Across the savannah, more Nick's car hunting parties were converging on their position. Each one would be exposed to the nanobots. Each one would carry the viral code back to their ships. "Begin withdrawal," she ordered. "Make it look good." The human forces retreated in apparent disorder, leaving behind equipment and supplies. To the Nick's car, it would appear as though they had disrupted a primitive human outpost, sending the natives fleeing in terror. Their pride would prevent them from looking too closely at their victory. "All units clear," Maya confirmed. Minimal casualties, all objectives achieved. In orbit, hidden sensors detected the Nick's car survey ships preparing to leave. They would return to their staging area, proud of their successful scouting mission, unaware that they carried within their systems the keys to their own defeat. Dr. Patel, Sarah called, began analysis of the combat data. I want to know everything about how their systems responded to our countermeasures. As the sun set over the savannah, Sarah allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. This wasn't just a victory, it was a proof of concept. They had shown that humanity could do more than just survive against the galaxy's greatest hunters. They could beat them at their own game. Message from Command, her neural link chimed. The other test sites report similar success. The Nixcar took the bait at every location. Sarah looked up at the darkening sky, knowing that somewhere up there, the hunters were preparing for their great hunt. They had no idea that every success, every seeming victory, only brought them closer to the moment when the prey would become the predator. Begin Phase 5 preparations, she ordered. It's time to show them what humanity can really do. The real hunt was about to begin, and this time, Earth would be ready. The orbital defense station Artemis hung silently above Earth, its systems running dark. Sarah Chun stood in the command center, watching as thousands of Nixcar vessels emerged from hyperspace. Their crystalline hulls caught the sun's light, creating a spectacular display that would have been beautiful if it wasn't a prelude to invasion. Final status report, she commanded, her voice steady despite the tension. All planetary defense grids are in stealth mode, Dr. Patel replied from his station. The viral code we planted is present in 97% of their ship's systems. They've spread it themselves through their routine data exchanges. Maya's voice joined in from ground command. All 7 continents report ready. Environmental systems are primed and waiting. The Earth herself is our weapon now. The Nixcar fleet moved into position with military precision. Their grand hunting ceremony was about to begin, the largest coordinated hunt in galactic history. Millions of their finest hunters had gathered for this moment, drawn by the promise of humanity's final subjugation. Incoming transmission, the AI announced. They're broadcasting on all frequencies. Grand Hunter ZYXL's holographic form materialized in the center of the command center. His scales shimmered with anticipation as he delivered the formal challenge. Humanity, you have earned the honor of participating in the Great Hunt. Your species' remarkable adaptability has amused us. Now, witness the true might of the galaxy's ultimate predators. Sarah stepped forward, allowing herself to be seen. Recognition flickered across ZYXL's crystalline features. Valsha? No, impossible. The name is Sarah Chin, she replied, dropping all pretense. And you're right about one thing. This will be a hunt unlike anything the galaxy has ever seen. She nodded to Dr. Patel, who activated the first phase of their counterattack. Across the globe, hidden transmitters began broadcasting on frequencies matched precisely to the Nixcar's biological rhythms. Not an attack, not yet, but a message encoded in their own hunting songs. What is this? ZYXL demanded, his scales shifting to confused patterns. We studied you, Sarah explained, her voice carrying the weight of months of preparation. While you were so focused on hunting us, we learned everything about you. Your biology, your technology, your culture. But most importantly, we learned your greatest weakness. The message hidden in the frequencies began to take effect. Across the Nixcar fleet, hunters began experiencing something they'd never felt before: doubt. You've spent so long at the top of the food chain that you've forgotten what it means to be prey, Sarah continued. But humanity? We've never forgotten. Every step of our evolution was shaped by being both predator and prey. And now, we're going to show you what that really means. She gave the signal. Around the world, the environment itself came alive with humanity's response. In the Amazon, engineered plants released spores that interfered with the Nixcar's crystalline technology. In the oceans, modified algae blooms created electromagnetic fields that disrupted their sensors. In the deserts, the very sand had been seeded with microscopic machines that could pierce their environmental suits. Impossible, ZYXL snarled. Your technology is primitive. Your weapons are ineffective. Our technology? Sarah laughed. We're not using our technology. We're using yours. The viral code they'd planted activated simultaneously across the Nixcar fleet. But instead of destroying their systems, it did something far more insidious. It began transmitting their own hunting recordings back to them. Every kill, every trophy, every moment of proud superiority was thrown back at them, but now overlaid with data showing how each of their techniques could be countered. You see, Sarah explained as chaos erupted across the Nixcar command channels, we didn't just study how you hunt. We studied how you think. Your pride, your absolute conviction in your superiority, those are weapons we can use against you. The Nixcar launched their first wave of hunters, refusing to believe they could be outmaneuvered. They descended toward Earth in their traditional hunting formations, ready to begin their grand spectacle. That's when humanity showed them what real hunting looked like. Hidden defense platforms emerged from the ocean depths, not firing weapons, but releasing clouds of engineered microorganisms that had evolved specifically to interact with Nixcar biology. The atmosphere itself began to change, transformed by years of careful manipulation to become hostile to their hunting technology. Second phase, Sarah commanded. Around the world, resistance fighters emerged from hiding. But they weren't running, weren't acting like prey. They moved with the confidence of apex predators, using techniques perfected over thousands of years of human hunting history. Your hunters are being isolated and contained, Maya reported with professional satisfaction. The environmental traps are working perfectly. They can't maintain their formations. Dr. Patel's voice was excited. Their biological responses are exactly as predicted. Their chromatophore systems are failing under the combined environmental stress. Sarah watched as the mighty Nixcar hunting fleet began to fragment. Without their camouflage, without their superior technology, they were experiencing something entirely new: vulnerability. You think this makes you the superior species? HFY raged, his holographic form flickering as his ship systems began to fail. No, Sarah replied calmly. This makes us survivors. Something you've never had to be. You hunt for sport, for pride, for trophies. We learned to hunt because the alternative was extinction. Every technique we're using against you, we developed over millions of years of evolution. The battle, no, the hunt, continued around the globe. But it wasn't a traditional military engagement. It was humanity demonstrating why they had become Earth's dominant species. Every environment, every ecosystem had been turned into a trap, using the Nixcar's own hunting instincts against them. Final phase, Sarah ordered. The true nature of their plan was revealed. The viral code hadn't just been collecting data, it had been learning, adapting, evolving. Just like humanity. Now it began to rewrite the Nixcar's hunting protocols, not to destroy them, but to show them something they'd never considered. What is this? HFY demanded as new information flooded his systems. This, Sarah said, is what happens when the prey decides to change the game. We're not just fighting back, we're teaching you. Every piece of data, every tactical analysis, every biological response, it's all a lesson. In evolution, in adaptation, in survival. The greatest hunt in galactic history was becoming something else entirely, a demonstration of why humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their weapons, but their ability to turn any situation to their advantage. The hunt was changing, and with it, the future of both species. The command center of Artemis Station had fallen silent, its screens displaying the aftermath of humanity's greatest hunt. Disabled Nixcar vessels hung in orbit like crystalline sculptures, their once proud hunters now experiencing something entirely new, the humility of defeat. But Sarachin knew this wasn't just about victory, it was about what came next. Final status report, she requested, her eyes fixed on the main display where Grand Hunter ZYXL's ship maintained its position, neither retreating nor attacking. All continental defense systems report success, Maya responded. 87% of Nixcar hunting parties have been contained. The remainder have voluntarily stood down. Dr. Patel's voice carried a note of wonder. The biological data we're receiving is extraordinary. Their entire species is showing signs of rapid adaptation. It's as if our countermeasures forced an evolutionary response. Sarah nodded, understanding the implications. The Nixcar, for all their technological advancement, had become stagnant in their evolution. Today had changed that forever. Incoming transmission, the AI announced. Multiple frequencies, unprecedented encryption pattern. The holographic display flickered to life, but this time it wasn't just ZYXTEL. The entire Nixcar High Council had assembled, the first time in their history they had ever gathered to address a prey species. Speak, the first hunter commanded, their crystalline forms shifting through colors Sarah had never seen before, patterns that spoke of confusion, respect, and something else, curiosity. Your species has achieved something unprecedented, Sarah began, choosing her words carefully. You've evolved. Not over generations, but in moments. The question is, do you understand what that means? The council chamber erupted in a cascade of color changes as the Nixcar leaders communicated in their natural way. Finally, ZYXTEL spoke, his voice carrying new harmonics. We believed ourselves to be the ultimate predators, he said. But you have shown us that true evolution never ends. The hunt, it was never about dominance, was it? Sarah smiled. No, it's about adaptation. About learning. About becoming more than what you were. Humanity didn't become Earth's dominant species by being the strongest or fastest. We did it by never stopping our evolution. She gestured, and Dr. Patel activated their final revelation. The screens filled with data, not just from today's battle, but from millions of years of Earth's history. Look at your own biological readings, she continued. The stress of our countermeasures didn't just challenge you, it awakened dormant aspects of your biology. Your chromatophores aren't just for camouflage anymore, they're evolving into a new form of communication. Your crystalline structures are adapting to process information in ways you never imagined. The first hunter leaned forward, their form rippling with intense colors. You knew this would happen. This wasn't just about defending your world. You were teaching us. Every species reaches a point where they must choose, Sarah explained. Continue evolving or become extinct. The Nixcar chose dominance over adaptation, perfecting your hunting skills, but stagnating everything else. Today, we've forced you to evolve again. Maya's voice cut in urgently. Multiple energy signatures detected. The dormant ships are reactivating. But Sarah remained calm. She had expected this. The Nixcar vessels were indeed powering up, but not with their weapons. Their crystalline hulls were changing, adapting, becoming something new. Remarkable, Dr. Patel breathed. They're not just repairing themselves, they're evolving. The viral code we planted, they're not fighting it anymore. They're incorporating it, learning from it. The council members watched in fascination as their fleet transformed. The changes weren't just technological, the Nixcar themselves were changing. Their rigid hunting hierarchies were dissolving, replaced by something more fluid, more adaptive. We offer you a choice, Sarah addressed the council. Continue as you are, ruling through fear and dominance, until you meet a species that does to you what you've done to others. Or evolve. Join us in understanding that true strength comes from constant adaptation, from learning from every encounter, from growing beyond what you thought possible. ZYXTEL's scales shifted to a completely new pattern, one that spoke of rebirth. And if we choose evolution? What then? Sarah's response was interrupted by a new alert. The sensors were detecting massive energy signatures from the transformed Nixcar ships. But instead of weapons, they were generating something else. Vast fields of biological and technological interchange. They're creating adaptation zones, Dr. Patel reported excitedly. Using our viral code as a template, they're developing spaces where different species can safely interact, learn from each other, evolve together. The first hunter rose, their form now pulsing with patterns that told of new possibilities. For millennia, we hunted to prove our superiority. But you have shown us a greater truth, that true evolution comes not from domination, but from challenge, from change, from the endless dance of predator and prey, each making the other stronger. Sarah nodded. That's why we didn't simply defeat you. We could have. Instead, we chose to help you evolve. Because humanity's greatest strength isn't our ability to fight, it's our ability to adapt, to learn, to grow. And now, to teach. The transformation of the Nixcar fleet continued, but now with purpose. The crystalline ships were becoming more than weapons of war, they were becoming crucibles of evolution, places where species could come together to challenge each other, learn from each other, grow together. "We accept your offer," the first hunter declared. "Not as conquerors, not as the hunted, but as fellow travelers on the path of evolution. The great hunt ends today, but something greater begins." As the council's transmission faded, Sarah turned to her team. The command center was silent, but it was a silence full of possibility. "Dr. Patel," she said finally, "prepare our biological research teams. The Nixkar are going to need help understanding their new capabilities." "And the defense systems?" Maya asked. "Keep them ready," Sarah replied, "but adapt them. From now on, they're not just for defense, they're tools for teaching, for growing, for evolving." As she looked out at the transformed fleet, Sarah reflected on how far they'd come. The Nixkar had arrived as hunters, seeking to prove their dominance. They would leave as something else entirely, proof that even the most rigid species could change, could grow, could evolve. The hunt was over. Evolution had won. And in the end, both predator and prey had become something greater than either could have imagined alone. The future would bring new challenges, new adaptations, new forms of evolution. But now, humanity wouldn't face them alone. They had shown the galaxy's greatest hunters that true strength lay not in dominance, but in the endless capacity to change, to learn, to grow. The hunt had become a dance of evolution, and every species was invited to join. Sarah's response was interrupted by a new alert. The sensors were detecting massive energy signatures from the transformed Nixkar ships. But instead of weapons, they were generating something else. Vast fields of biological and technological interchange. "They're creating adaptation zones," Dr. Patel reported excitedly. "Using our viral code as a template, they're developing spaces where different species can safely interact, learn from each other, evolve together." The first hunter rose, their form now pulsing with patterns that told of new possibilities. "For millennia, we hunted to prove our superiority. But you have shown us a greater truth, that true evolution comes not from domination, but from challenge, from change, from the endless dance of predator and prey, each making the other stronger." Sarah nodded. "That's why we didn't simply defeat you. We could have. Instead, we chose to help you evolve. Because humanity's greatest strength isn't our ability to fight, it's our ability to adapt, to learn, to grow. And now, to teach." The transformation of the Nixkar fleet continued, but now with purpose. The crystalline ships were becoming more than weapons of war, they were becoming crucibles of evolution, places where species could come together to challenge each other, learn from each other, grow together. "We accept your offer," the first hunter declared. "Not as conquerors, not as the hunted, but as fellow travelers on the path of evolution. The great hunt ends today, but something greater begins." As the council's transmission faded, Sarah turned to her team. The command center was silent, but it was a silence full of possibility. "Dr. Patel," she said finally, "prepare our biological research teams. The Nixkar are going to need help understanding their new capabilities." "And the defense systems?" Maya asked. "Keep them ready," Sarah replied, "but adapt them. From now on, they're not just for defense, they're tools for teaching, for growing, for evolving." As she looked out at the transformed fleet, Sarah reflected on how far they'd come. The Nixkar had arrived as hunters, seeking to prove their dominance. They would leave as something else entirely, proof that even the most rigid species could change, could grow, could evolve. The hunt was over. Evolution had won. And in the end, both predator and prey had become something greater than either could have imagined alone. The future would bring new challenges, new adaptations, new forms of evolution. But now, humanity wouldn't face them alone. They had shown the galaxy's greatest hunters that true strength lay not in dominance, but in the endless capacity to change, to learn, to grow. The hunt had become a dance of evolution, and every species was invited to join.